of three enzymes. One is amylase. Have you heard this word in the previous session? Yes, saliva contains an enzyme called salivary amylase. Here this is pancreatic amylase. And next trypsin. Next is trypsin. And then lipase. Then lipase. These are the three enzymes we are going to discuss in the digestion process. So here the amylase. Salivary amylase act on which component? Carbohydrates. Here also the same thing. Here amylase act on the carbohydrates which were left over. Already some carbohydrates are digested by ptyalin or salivary amylase, and the remaining carbohydrates are digested by this amylase, and the carbohydrates are broken down completely and converted into maltose sugars. Maltose sugars. And then coming to trypsin. So in the stomach, what is the enzyme released? Pepsin. Pepsin, trypsin. So here pepsin in the stomach helps in the digestion of proteins. Here the trypsin also helps in the digestion of proteins and converts the proteins into peptones and peptides. Peptones and peptides. Peptones and peptides. So what are the enzymes that act on proteins? There in the stomach, pepsin. Here in the pancreatic juice, trypsin. These both are the enzymes act on proteins and converts the proteins into simple form called peptones and peptides. Then coming to the third one, lipase. What is the third enzyme? Lipase. Here the lipase act on lipids. Have you heard the word lipid? It is nothing but fat. So fats are also called as lipids. Fats are also called as lipids. Now these lipids are digested or broken down by lipase. Lipase is an enzyme act on lipids and converts them into fatty acids. Converts them into fatty acids and glycerols. Fatty acids and glycerols. Understand? Here the pancreatic juice consists of three enzymes. Amylase that act on carbohydrates of our food and converts them into maltose. And coming to trypsin. Trypsin act on proteins and converts them into peptones and peptides. And coming to lipase, it acts on lipids or fats. Fats are nothing but lipids. So they act on lipids and break down the lipids into fatty acids and glycerols. So these are the enzymes that are produced by the pancreas in the pancreatic juice. So all these juices after bile juice and pancreatic juice, when they are released into the duodenum, the food that enter into the duodenum from the stomach. So in the stomach, food is in which nature? Acidic in nature. After reaching the food into the duodenum, by the mixing of these juices like bile juice and pancreatic juice, the food becomes alkaline in nature. So the alkaline nature of the food allows the enzymes that are responsible to digest the carbohydrates to become active. So they make the amylase enzyme active to digest the carbohydrates. That means acidic nature of the food do not allow the carbohydrates digestion. So the food in the stomach acidic in nature, then it comes to the duodenum in a small quantities, it become alkaline in nature, and when the alkaline nature of the food starts, then carbohydrate digestion will continue along with protein digestion and fat digestion. Till now we have discussed about the liver and pancreas and the secretions which are produced from liver and pancreas. Now let us see, the intestine is made with some glands called as intestinal glands. Intestinal glands. So these intestinal glands secrete a juice called as Sucrase entericus. Sucrase entericus. What it is, ma? Sucrase entericus is a juice that is producing by the intestinal glands which are located in the different parts of small intestine. Here, this Sucrase entericus is a juice. Juice is nothing but digestive juice or intestinal juice. It is also called as intestinal juice. And this juice consists of enzymes called as peptidases, sucrase, etc. Peptidases and sucrase. So here the first one, the peptidase, act on peptides of the components of proteins. So they act on peptides. Which enzyme act on peptides? Peptidases. So peptidases are produced in which part? In the intestine. By which glands it produces? It produces intestinal glands. So these peptides are the components of proteins that are digested by peptidases and finally forms amino acids. So amino acids are the end products of proteins, end products of proteins. And coming to the sucrase. Sucrase is the enzyme that act on sucrose, is the substance which is called as cane sugar, which is called as cane sugar. Sucrose is the cane sugar on which an enzyme act called as sucrase, and finally it converts it into glucose. It is the end product of carbohydrate digestion. Understand? Likewise, different enzymes responsible for the digestion of carbohydrates, digestion of proteins and digestion of fats. Regarding these enzymes, we have a tabular form in our textbook, and where these enzymes are produced, on which substance they act, and how do they convert the substances, and what are the end products of the digestion process, everything we have in that table. Now let us go through that table. So based on this, what are the enzymes responsible for carbohydrate digestion? So here first one is ptyalin. First, carbohydrate digestion, let us see. Ptyalin or salivary amylase. Salivary amylase, and this is producing in the saliva, and another enzyme amylase and another one sucrase. These are the enzymes that are responsible for the digestion of carbohydrates, and here these enzymes finally converts the carbohydrates, basically maltose and glucose. Then coming to protein digestion. So for the protein digestion, pepsin, trypsin, peptidases are the enzymes that act on proteins and converts them into amino acids. And coming to the lipase. Lipase is the enzyme that act on lipids, are converted into fatty acids and glycerols. Here we may ask the question like this: what are the enzymes responsible for protein digestion? Pepsin, trypsin, peptidases. And what are the end products of protein digestion? Amino acids. And coming to the what is the enzyme that act on lipids? Lipase. And what are the end products of fat digestion? Fatty acids and glycerols. And what are the enzymes that break down the carbohydrates? Thiolin or salivary amylase or pancreatic amylase and sucrase that act on cane sugar called as a sucrose. These are the enzymes act on carbohydrates. And what is the end product of carbohydrate digestion? Glucose. These are the main points we have to understand here. And here in the chapter we have discussed that one juice that has no enzymes. Can you name that juice? Is a bile juice. So bile juice is produced by which gland? Liver. So can you say the importance of bile juice? Even though it has no enzymes, it helps in the emulsification of fats. So here emulsification means breakdown of complex fats into smaller fats. So for that emulsification, what juice is required? Bile juice. Can you name the juice which has no enzymes? Bile juice. This is about enzymes, and the enzymes act on which food component, and the end products of carbohydrates, proteins and fat digestion. After digestion of the food in the small intestine, the digested food has to move into the blood. So how does this process of movement of the digested food from small intestine to blood occurs? Here in the small intestine, the last part of the small intestine called as ileum, inner wall of the ileum, we can see some finger-like projections or foldings. Finger-like foldings are present in the inner wall of the ileum called as a villi. We can observe the inner wall of the small intestine has many foldings like this. You know why the inner wall of the small intestine is like foldings? Why? Because to increase the surface area for absorption of food materials. So if you see, the small intestine is a very thin tube-like structure. So total food which comes to the small intestine has digested. So the total food has to be absorbed into the blood. So to absorb more amount of digested food into the blood, it has many foldings so that the surface area is more. Understand? Each folding we call as villus is a singular word. Plural word, many finger-like projections are present called as villi. If you see the structure of villus, means one finger-like projection, it was like this, and this wall is made with epithelial cells, a single layered epithelial cells, and have a lymph vessel, and around this lymph vessel a network of blood capillaries are present. A network of blood capillaries are present. This diagram also we will see. So these are the blood vessels, means nothing but capillaries, finest blood vessels, and the outer wall is having epithelial cells like this. Each finger like projection have the cells like this, epithelial cells. And now the digested food which comes around all the finger like projections will be absorbed first into the epithelial cells, and through that epithelial cells the digested food will be absorbed into blood capillaries. So these blood capillaries take away the digested food and supplies the substances into main blood stream. From there all the cells will receive the digested food materials. This is about the absorption of food materials in the small intestine, that is through the villi. Now totally digested food will be absorbed into the blood. Now, whatever the food we take into our system will not digest completely. So, after digestion of certain substances in the food, some materials will be left over in the system. That leftover or that undigested food materials will be sent into the large intestine. Now the function of large intestine has been started. Understand, after digestion of the food materials, the leftover undigested food materials will move into the large intestine. Now in the large intestine, whatever the water content, useful water which is present in the undigested material will be absorbed into the bloodstream, and the undigested material and becomes semi-solid by absorption of excess water which is present in the undigested material. Now this undigested material moves through the large intestine, and here in the large intestine we see three parts. So where small intestine connected is cecum, and upward, transverse and downward colon, and a storage tank for the undigested waste material is called as rectum, and that rectum opens outside through anus. Now the undigested material may contain some materials of carbohydrates, some proteins may present, some fats may present, and some fibers also present. So all these undigested material come and store in the rectum. This undigested material comes out from the system through anus. After completion of the total process of digestion, let us know about different parts are present in the digestive tract. As we see in the previous class, the digestive system starts with the mouth, and it opens into a cavity called as the buccal cavity, and this buccal cavity opens into a junction called as a pharynx, and this pharynx opens into esophagus, and this esophagus opens into muscular bag-like structure called as a stomach. Now the stomach opens into duodenum. The stomach opens into duodenum. It is the first part of the small intestine. Into this duodenum, why we have written this duodenum in a separately means, here into this duodenum two glands are open. One is liver and another one is pancreas. And now this duodenum opens into the next two parts, jejunum and ileum, together called as a small intestine. This is also a part of small intestine. And now the small intestine opens into large intestine. And then large intestine opens into rectum, and then this opens outside through anus. Now there are several steps involved in the process of digestion. Now let us see each one in detail. The first one is ingestion. In human beings, if you see, the first one, to digest the food, first we need to take the food into our body. What is meant by in? In means inside, gestion means to take in. Okay, so the process of taking in of food, through mouth is called as ingestion. Then after keeping the food into the mouth, the process of digestion will start. It is a second step. The digestion means the process of breakdown of complex food substances complex food substances into simple substances by enzymes is called as a digestion. And next, third one. After digestion of the food in the small intestine, the process occurs is absorption. The digested food is absorbed into the blood. So here the absorption is the process of passage of digested food. Passage of digested food from small intestine to blood. From small intestine to blood is nothing but absorption. Then after absorption, assimilation. What it is? Assimilation. What is meant by assimilation? The process of movement of digested food from blood to cells. From blood to cells for the utilization. For the utilization is called as assimilation. Now, after assimilation and for after utilization of the digested food, the remaining portion of the digestion process is undigested material. That undigested materials has to be sent out from the body. So, the process of sending out of, the process of elimination or sending out of undigested food. Undigested food is nothing but waste. Undigested waste from the body through anus is called as a egestion. It is also called as defecation. It is also called as defecation. Understand? This is about the 5 steps that are involved in the process of digestion. Here all these 5 steps we can see in the holozoic nutrition in amoeba and also in paramecium and also in human beings. Now let us evaluate today's content. What are the enzymes present in pancreatic juice? Which enzyme helps in digestion of lipids? Name the juice secreted by intestinal glands. What are the enzymes act on proteins? What are the end products of protein digestion? What are the end products of fat digestion? How digested food is absorbed into blood? Why small intestine has many finger-like projections? Write the major steps occur in digestive system. Thank you.